Good morning from Moscow, everyone. It's Thursday, the 11th of June. In a moment, as the FIFA World Cup kicks off, what today's Russian papers are saying about a tournament that Russia has been banned from. First, officials here are sounding remarkably upbeat about the prospects for attracting foreign tourists to Russia, despite the fact that the situation right now is not very conducive to attracting foreign tourists. Or as Nezavisomaya Gazeta today puts it in its headline, officials are gearing up for a flood of foreign tourists. For holidaymakers, the petrol shortage, disruption to infrastructure and flight cancellations shouldn't get in the way. Apparently, there is no crisis whatsoever in the tourism industry, officials claim. In 2026, the influx of foreign tourists to Russia may grow by 20% compared to last year and reach 7 million trips, promised Nikita Kondratyev, head of the Department of Multilateral Economic Cooperation of Russia's Economic Development Ministry. However, for Russians, the fuel crisis, restrictions on the retail sale of petrol, attacks on passenger trains by Ukrainian drones, or the frequent rescheduling of flights are becoming important factors when planning their holidays. Against the backdrop of problems with train travel and restrictions on the sale of fuel, demand for holidays in Crimea has fallen noticeably, according to the Association of Tour Operators, which says that over the past week, for the first time, the number of cancellations was higher than the number of new bookings. And the main beneficiary of the redistribution of demand was Anapa. Last year in Anapa, officials declared around 150 beaches unusable due to massive fuel oil pollution after 2 Russian tankers broke apart in the area in December 2024. Tourists who then checked into hotels and sanatoriums in Anapa and the Temryuk region were required to provide written confirmation that they were aware of the ban on swimming and the closure of beaches. This year, the restrictions have been partially lifted, although not all the consequences of the wreckage have been eliminated. The good news for Russians heading to Anapa for their holidays: in Anapa, 4.5 kilometers of sandy beaches, as well as all pebble areas of the coast, are available for holidaymakers. The bad news: in April 2026, several more oil spills were discovered near the coast of Anapa. Tomorrow is Russia Day, a national holiday here, and in a front-page patriotic piece, the Russian government paper Rossiyskaya Gazeta tries to present the last 12 years of Russian history as a great victory for the country. The key points at which our country became strong and confident were the victories which have completed the historic trials of the last 36 years, the return of annexed Crimea and the Crimean Spring, the resistance to the sanctions that followed, and finally the special military operation as a sign that our independence has ceased to be a joke and has become the primary choice for the country and the majority of its citizens. And yet, the special military operation, Russia's war in Ukraine, is now in its 5th year, and Russia has suffered huge battlefield losses and damage to its economy. Now, Moscow had been counting on Donald Trump to put pressure on Ukraine to accept a peace deal on Moscow's terms. In Arguments and Facts, an acknowledgement of the Trump administration's failure to bring about an end to the war. It's just that at the very moment when the window was supposedly open and Trump's hands were not tied, when he may have really wanted to do something, he didn't succeed. And the point is not that he didn't try hard enough, but that it simply turned out to be too much for the United States. It couldn't force Ukraine and Europe to play the roles assigned them. Izvestia, the Russian treasury will receive more than 2.5 trillion rubles, that's around $34 billion, by the end of the year from high oil prices. However, this will not completely solve the problem of the budget deficit, which is already 6 trillion rubles. The FIFA World Cup is kicking off in Canada, Mexico and the United States. Russia is banned from the tournament. Moskovsky Komsomolets today takes a swipe at Donald Trump over Iran. Trump, as one of the hosts of the tournament, failed to ensure peace for the football championship. After all, we're talking about the Middle East here. And there, if you let the evil genie out of the bottle, everyone knows how hard it is to force it back. Much harder than, for example, the US winning the World Cup. However, clearly Russians will be following the tournament. There's a huge article here detailing all the groups, all the teams in the competition. And the Russian government paper is looking forward to it. We will enjoy the majesty of football, long awaited since the 2022 World Cup in Qatar. Nezavisima Gazeta tells us that this year Winnie-the-Pooh is 100 years old. Here's the Soviet cartoon version. And finally to the joke section of Komsomolskaya Pravda. Well, I say joke, but actually this is more of a social commentary. Traditionally in Russia, things can develop in one of two ways. Either the worst case scenario or the highly improbable.